Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Blessed with good health, inshallah, and also time and opportunity to continue the study of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surah Kahfi. Let's start off with the intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the book of Allah and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, and His reward, subhanahu. Let's continue on with our Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim, ghairil maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم نور بالقرآن بصري واشرح به صدري وأطلق به لساني واستعمل به بدني وقوي به جناني وأسرع به فحمي بحولك وقوتك فإنه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بك يا أرحم الراحمين والصلاة على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بفضل سبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين 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 يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Alhamdulillah, we're at Surah Kahfi. We did last lesson we did verses 1 to 5. Allah praised Himself because He revealed the scripture to His slave. Allah Rasulullah is the highest honor of anyone is to be the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And definitely there is no crookedness in it at all. Allah has made it straight. We know that no crookedness, but there is straight, right? To give warning. And the first thing is to give warning of punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to bring the believers who do good works, the news that theirs will be a fair reward. That means Allah will, first one is to warn those, right, to warn of a very stern punishment. So the warning is of the stern punishment, the punishment for disobedience. And second one, to give good news to the believers who do amal saleh. And Allah will give them a very, very good reward, wherein they will abide forever. So it will be in Jannah forever. I mean, the reward, the good ajran azim was given, that they will be given a special reward, that they will be in that reward forever. And also to warn those who say Allah has chosen a son. So two warnings. One is a stern punishment, and the other one is for those who give partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this sense, it's actually to insult Allah, to actually say Allah has a son or even a daughter, right? So it's very blasphemous against Allah. It's a great blasphemy against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereof they have no knowledge. So they have no knowledge at all concerning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their forefathers also have no knowledge, right? And terrible is the word that comes out of their mouth, and they speak nothing but a lie. So that was what we had in the last lesson, right? Because we start off. We continue with the Surah Kahfi. We are into the reasons why this surah was revealed. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, the Quraysh sent An-Nadar bin Al-Harith and Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt to the Jewish rabbis in Al-Madinah and told them, ask the rabbis about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and describe him to them and tell them what he is saying. They are the people of the first book, and they have more knowledge of the prophets than we do. So they do acknowledge, the Arabs do acknowledge the fact that the Jews have some kind of book from some prophet. So in somehow they actually believe that the prophet has been sent, right? And they have some knowledge from the prophet. So there is some divine knowledge that they sort of believe in. So they set out, and when they reached Al-Madinah, they asked the Jewish rabbis about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They described him to them and told them some of what he had said. They said, "You are the people of Torah, and we have come to you so that you can tell us about this companion of ours." So they actually acknowledged the fact Rasulullah is a Sahaba. Sahaba is one person. Sahaba actually means a man one who lives among you and you are familiar with him. It's called a Sahaba, right? It's not an intimate friend, but one whom you are aware of. You know his movements and you know where he comes from. He is a Sahaba. That's what a Sahaba is all about. The rabbi said, ask him about 3 things, which we will tell you to ask. And if he answers them, then he is a prophet. If he does not, then he is saying things that are not true. In which case, how you deal with him will be up to you. So they gave a direction. Ask him about some young men in ancient times. What was their story? For theirs is a strange and wondrous tale. Right, so that's the first question, the people of the cave. But they didn't mention about the cave, they just talked about this wondrous tale. And asked him about a man who traveled a great distance and reached the east and the west of the earth. What was his story? And asked him about the Ruh. What is it? And if he tells you about these things, then he is a prophet. So follow him. But if he does not tell you, then he is a man who is making things up. So deal with him as you see fit. So that is a direction, instructions from the Jewish rabbi. They're very, very learned people of the book. So Nadar and Uqba left and came back to the Quraysh and said, "O people of Quraysh, we have come to you with a decisive solution which will put an end to the problem between you and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam." Of course, they didn't say sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are saying it because we hear the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Jewish rabbis told us to ask him about some matters, and they told the Quraysh what they were. Then they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, "Ya Muhammad, tell us." And they asked him about the things they had been told to us. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "I will tell you tomorrow, but what you have asked me." But he did not say, "Inshallah." So they went away, and Rasulullah stayed for 15 days without any revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concerning that. And Jibril did not come to him either. So it was a very stressful moment for him, right? And he's already all alone. He had promised that he would tell them the next day, but then he did not say, "Inshallah." And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala withheld the information for 15 days. And even Jibril did not come to him. The people of Mecca started to doubt him and said, "Muhammad promised to tell us the next day. And now 15 days have gone by and he has not told us anything in response to the questions we asked. Rasulullah felt sad because of the delay in revelation. Of course, it's rather humiliating sometimes, when you promise and you can't keep the promise, especially with Rasulullah who is known to keep his promises. And was grieved by what the people of Mecca were saying about him. Yeah, and then furthermore, they start talking about him, saying bad things about him, and that really upset him. Then Jibril came to him from Allah with a surah about the companions of the Al-Kahf, the cave, which also contained a caution for feeling sad about the idolaters. Surah also told him about the things that asked him about the young man and the traveler. All right, so let's recite and recall the first 5 verses that we had before. Alhamdulillahi anzala ala abdihi al-kitaba wa lam yaj'al lahu iwaja qayyiman liyunzira ba'san shadidan min ladunhu wa yubashshiral mu'minina alladhina ya'maluna as-salihati anna lahum ajran hasana ماكثين فيه أبدا وينذر الذين قالوا اتخذ الله ولدا ما لهم به من علم ولا لآبائهم كبرت كلمة تخرج من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا. I will go on the next set. فَلَعَلَّكَ fa is then لَعَلَّ is perhaps. Ka is you, referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِئٌ, a killer. بَاخِئٌ, this is an ism and it represents one person, and this structure gives a structure of continuously doing it. Nafsaka, nafs is self, ka is your. you or yourself, nafsaka, ala atharihim. Ala is on, athari, ala is huruf jar, that is why athari is in its jar state here. Atharihim, on their traces. Illam, in is if, lam is not. Yu'minu, they believe. And yu'minu from the word aman, iman, right? The ya and the waw alif tells us it is mudari, but it is in a jazm state because lam is huruf jazm. Illam yu'minu bihadhal hadithi. By this, B is by, in, with, right? Many words. But we look at the English structure, which is the best word to substitute. Hadha, this. Hadith is news. Bihadhal hadithi, by this news. Hadithi is also in a jar state. Hadithi. Asafa, grief. Right? Asafa is what we call nasab state. Right, and it is nakira. Nakira means unknown because there is no al. When there's an al, it is definite. Right. فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمْ إِن لَّمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَسَفًا. Then perhaps you would kill yourself through grief over them if they do not believe in this message out of sorrow. All right. So Allah says, فَلَعَلَّكَ, then perhaps, بَاخِعٌ, you become one who kills yourself, right? You destroy yourself, killing yourself. And sometimes killing doesn't have to be a killing, physically killing, where you become dead, but you have killed your soul, where you become very disoriented, where you don't seem to be alive in that sense. You are lost, you get disturbed all the time. So your life is not much of a life because you're in a state of depression all the time. So it doesn't have to be physical killing. But eventually, those people who are in a state of depression, they are never happy, they're always troubled, they're always, in a state of unhappiness and things like that. It's as if they don't have much life. And this is like, all right. So ala atharihim. So why is he killing himself? On their traces. Traces here would actually mean the things that they say, what is left behind of things that they say, the things that they do. Illam yu'minu bihadhal hadithi asafa. If not, they believe in this hadith. Hadith is the news that Allah is bringing. Hadith can be something that they know, but it appears new because it's a long time since they heard about it or didn't realize the story all about it. Asafa, being in a state of grief. So asafa is placed at the end to emphasize that he was in a state of grief and happiness. Let's look. Fa here, fala allaka refers to the Christians, and the ka refers to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why is it the Christians? Because before this, we were talking about those people who take a son to warn them, right, against taking a son for Allah, giving Allah a son, because to give Allah a son is really blasphemous. It's a terrible, terrible thing. It is a very, very grievous thing to say with your mouth that Allah has a son, right? And it is really, really impossible, nonsensical. Right? It's just that it's so horrible to ever say Allah has a son. So fire refers to the Christian. Fa, then, la'allaka, perhaps you. Fa related to in later in the sentence, a jumla shartiya, a conditional sentence, a statement. So this one, a fa, right, in if. So there is a connection here, right? Right. Then you become this because or if, right, in that you do not, in that you do not, if not, they believe. So the reason why you are becoming very upset, or you're killing yourself out of depression and sadness and remorse or whatever, right, is because they do not want to believe. Right? Usually should be if I go there then, but now then comes first. Right? So this one makes it a different way of sentencing to emphasize the reality of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the jawab placed at the beginning of the ayah to emphasize its importance, right? So if they do not believe in this news, then you would become upset, you would become disturbed, you would almost kill yourself out of your emotional state, right? But then Allah put it in front to make Rasulullah realize his state, right? You should not be in this state. Fala allaka, then perhaps, right, you would be one who kill yourself over their traces. If not, they believe in this news, right? And you will be in a state of real grief. Asafa. The jawab here is the reply. The reason, the jawab is the reply to the condition to the what has happened. La'alla is hope, but also fear. La'alla, perhaps. Perhaps there is this condition, there is a possibility, but it's not good. In this context, too, it has two implications. First, it is fear that you will kill yourself in grief. And second, Allah's concern for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there are two meanings, two opinions of scholars, right? Why the word la'alla is put there? Because Allah is telling him that it is not right, it's not good for him to actually be in that state of grief, and Allah also loves him and cares for him and advising him accordingly. The conveyance of the message is a heavy task. Rasulullah felt that he is not fulfilling his duty properly. So initially, there is a need. Rasulullah at times, right, felt that he has to get them to become believers. At times, he gets very upset because these people whom he was talking to, especially the elites, are very wise people. They are people who have knowledge and good and everything. For example, we have Abu Jahl, and Abu Jahl is called Abul Hakam. Before Islam, he was called Abul Hakam, and being called Abul Hakam means the father of wisdom. Right, so he was a very wise person, and he was among the elites. And they always have this shura where they have a group of the elders who are supposed to be very wise, right, to decide on affairs of the community, of the state, of the town or the city, right? So he approached all these people, and yet they don't want to listen to him, and he gets very frightened, very disturbed, because he saw his message as a very true message, and yet they are not able to accept. So he gets upset, and he feels that he's not doing his job well. This is what is killing him. So it gets into you, right? Killing him, it gets into you that, you know, you're not doing things right, that maybe your behavior is not good enough, or the way you approach it is not right. So you're not living up to the expectation or the mess or the role that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. So Allah assured Rasulullah that he was fulfilling his duty and that he was conveying it according to the high standard which Allah has set. So in this is Allah's way of saying, if they do not want to listen to, if they do not want to believe in this news, right, then you should not be in the state of, perhaps you are. Maybe you are going to go into that state, so you should not. That's what it is, right? The disbelievers hope that you will kill yourself in grief because they do not believe in this message. Bahi'un, to drive yourself to death over grief, extreme depression. And some people do, after so much grief, and they eat themselves up until they can actually die. But of course, as mentioned, a death doesn't have to be a death, a physical death, but a death of the soul, where you get just no life in you at all. Use of ism shows that this is a serious matter. It shows more permanency of such thoughts and feelings. So is the ism bahi'un, is it ism, right, that you will be in that continuous state of destroying yourself, right? So it's a permanent thing, because an ism is a noun. A noun is permanent. There is no time frame for nouns, whereas a verb has time frame: present, future, right, or past. Bahi'un, to cause another person to grieve or become enraged, to agitate someone with sadness and anger, so much so that this grief overwhelms them and they die. So that means you have become one person who are the branch of their behavior. So you cause into like that. So you have caused yourself to be in that state of being unhappy, sad, grief, and you're overwhelmed by this grief. So the words are very powerful words. So a form of killing someone without the use of a weapon. So the Prophet ﷺ in his wisdom can see the consequences of the Christian faith. It kills him to see their state. So he realized that what's going to happen to them, they're going to be punished, because in the first few verses, Allah already mentioned about warning against a punishment, which they are not listening to, right? The message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah says, praise to Allah, right, who has sent his slave this book, which is no crookedness at all in it, but upright, right? So and a reminder to them, but they're not listening. Athar, sign, symbol of footprint, right? You see, or traces. You act and it leaves a consequence behind. There's a Christian saying Allah is a son, leaves consequences behind them, not just the belief, but the consequences for their beliefs. So somehow the scholar is saying, right, فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمْ, right? You are so upset about what they are saying because you worry for them, you love them, you care for them, right? You care for all of the ummah of Allah, your ummah, and yet they are not believing. Just so that you realize that how what will be the consequences of their disbelief. So you get very upset about it. You feel sad about them. When they hear the truth, they will reject it. It is what Rasulullah is concerned over them, concerned over their traces. That means they say things, right, denouncing the truth, which is the truth is there, and Rasulullah worry that they would eventually go to hell. Right? In is if. Illam yu'minu, if not if they do not believe. Lam forces the yu'minu into the past tense, and that means I've mentioned it is considered as don't. It is as a form of changing into a jazm state. If they don't believe, then they are a demon of not believing. If lam yu'minu bihadhal hadith, if they have not believed in this new saying, hadithi, new statement, the Quran, right? Illam yu'minu bihadhal hadith. Hadith is the statement, the story, the news, right? Whatever the Quran is saying. If they had not believed in this, new saying, bihadhal hadith, hadithi asaf. Asafa is intense sorrow. And why is it in the nasab? Nasab, because it has the an at the end, fathatain, right? That tells us it is really big. It is just overwhelmingly sore, unhappiness. Explains the state of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Explains the state of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Asafan, by being placed in the end, implies it's okay if they don't believe in me, but at least believe in this message. This shows the extremity of sadness. How much more sad can someone get? What it means is that the word, he's so sad they don't believe. Okay lah, maybe they don't want to believe in him because they have issues like he's an Arab, issues like he's an orphan, he's not the elite of the society. You don't want to believe in me, it's okay, but at least believe in the statement, which is so clear, right? And because at the end of the day, Rasulullah wants them to enter heaven. He doesn't want them to go to hell. Where they don't even care about themselves and just want people to be saved by believing in the message. It's not about me, it's about you, right? I want you to believe. You don't believe in me, never mind, but at least look at what it is. So there are times where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would push forward the message, right? And not even mention him, Allah, as the one who gives the message. So you use a passive form so that it is sent to you. It is sent to the people. So who sent is not mentioned, because when you mention Allah, people, no, I'm not going to listen to it because it's by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh, Allah is the one who sent. I'm not going to listen to. Oh, it's Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sent to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm not going to listen to him. So that's what the Jews also said. You see, the Jews say, I'm not going to believe you. I'm not going to believe in this message because Jibril sent it. Why? What's wrong with Jibril? Right? Oh, because Jibril is so vindictive. He brings down all kinds of rules and regulations that will make life difficult for us, and we don't like it. So that's why Jibril is not good, right? So because they heard that Jibril sent the message to Rasulullah, they're not going to believe it. So you need to approach people in a certain manner, in a certain way, right? So that they would look at what is critical, right? In the whole message itself. So what's critical here is that you believe in Allah. Never mind me. believe in Allah first and understand that there is a punishment in the next one. So sympathy and regret upon others' aberration is a value, and the Prophet ﷺ is always the most compassionate one among people. So this shows the nature of Rasulullah ﷺ, his great care and concern for people. And Allah described him, right, in that state of unhappiness because of his great care and concern for his friends and relatives. Qatada said, killing yourself with anger and grief over them. Mujahid said, with anxiety. These are synonymous. So the meaning is, do not feel sorry for them. Just convey the message of Allah to them. Whoever goes the right way, then he goes the right way only for the benefit of himself. And whoever goes astray, then he strays at his own loss. So do not destroy yourself in sorrow for them. And that's the reality. That is the message given to Rasulullah SAW. Do not kill yourself. Perhaps you would do this, which is not good for you actually, because you would be one who is killing yourself over what they are, over their attitude towards the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are in this state, grieve for them, grieving for them. No, don't. That's not what you're supposed to do. Inna ja'alna ma'ala al-ardi zinatan laha. Inna, surely we, there's two words here, inna without the shadda, and then another noun, so it's combined together, so we have a shadda. Surely we, ja'alna, we make. Actually, it's past tense, fi'il madi, so we made. Of course, past tense is okay, but Allah makes things continuously. So a past tense in Arabic usage is when it is for sure. Allah is the one who put. But ja'alna doesn't have to be make also. It can be put. Right? We put. Ja'alna also is place. It's not like create, but it's more of a place, all these things. Ma alal ardi. Ma is whatever. Ala is on. Ardi is the earth. All right. Ala is hurujar. So ardi goes into kasra here. Zinatan. Zinah is a decoration. And like zinat, a name of a person whose name is zinat is a decorator, right? Zain, zaini, all come from the same root word. Laha, for it. For it referring to the earth, because the earth takes a female, it's considered as a female term. All right, a female. All right, ala ardi. Linabluwa. Li is so that. The na is we. So we test you. So that we test you. So that we test. And the word balau, right? Balau, we have the word bala. In bala is a difficult thing. And something that is a test on him. A bala is a test on him. So linabluwa, na is we. Nabluwa, it is a nasab state. It's mudari, the li is huruf nasab and wa. Because it's a fathah here. And there's no nun, right? Linabluwahum, whom is them? Ayyuhum, which of them? Ayyu is which, whom is them? Ahsanu, this is the best. This is innocent, but it sometimes have the form of it is comparative. But of course, here is the best. Ahsanu, from the word hasana. Hasana is good, so the best. Amalan, ahsanu amala. Inna ja'alna ma'alal ardi zinatan laha linabluwahum ayyuhum ahsanu amala. Surely we have placed all that is on the earth. So there's a stressing here, right? This is what we call jumla ismiyah, where you start with a we. Right? In normal Arabic structure, we start with a fi'il. But the we is used to, it emphasizes. So it means surely we make. All right, so we place, you do the placed here. So as mentioned, it doesn't have to be made, but place whatever on the earth, all that is on the earth as a decoration. We'll change that to place. It sounds nice. Be placed. All right, sorry about that. On the right. Easy to understand. Sorry about that. Alright, inna ja'alna ma'al al-ardi zinatan laha linabluwahum ayyuhum ahsanu amala. Inna, surely, definitely we place on the earth zina, lots of things that tempts people, beautiful things on earth. Right, it decorates the earth, the plants, the rivers, every single thing on earth decorates the earth. For it is the earth. Inna ja'alna, surely we make a strong emphasis on Allah being the one who created. This world is beautified for the disbelievers. Abu Maslama narrated from Abu Nadra, from Abu Sa'id, that Rasulullah SAW said, Inna dunya hulwatun khadirah, wa inna Allah mustakhlifukum fiha fanadhirum madha ta'malun. Fattaqud dunya واتقوا النساء فإن أول فتنة بني إسرائيل كانت في النساء. This world is sweet and green, and Allah makes you generations succeeding one and another. So He is watching what you do. All right, so here we have a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Which tells us that the world is sweet, it's beautiful, it's pleasant, it's green, there's lots of greenery everywhere to decorate the world, and Allah makes you generations after generations. So you'll be living in the world one after another, right? Then He's watching what you will do. Beware of the beguilements of the world, that is the temptation of the world, and beware of women, for the first affliction that children of Israel suffered from was that of women. And some women may not like to hear this, but we need to look at the situation in itself, right? The decorations, the best decorations of the world actually for men, right, is women. Yeah, women beautifully dressed up, and we can see that. We have to admit and acknowledge that the woman is being used in many advertisements, in many places to sell things, right? And also to and the women in themselves, right, has been somehow seduced into wanting to be beautiful, and the beauty of women, or they have worked on the vanity of women, and it's a billion-dollar business, vanity of women. So the affliction of children of Israel suffered from was that of women. That is why Islam maintains the woman, protects the woman, so that they do not lose their modesty. They are special creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with beautiful manners, with gentleness, with compassion, with care and concern for their family and friends. But once they go out, they want to become like men, then they lose some of whatever they had, and that cause sort of the fallout of the community, the society. Whatever is found on the earth, such as gardens, flowers, fruits, animals, water sources, means, colors, and good smells are all ornaments for the earth. They beautify the world, definitely. But for the developed and pious people, faith and piety are their main ornaments. All right, now these are various opinions of the scholars. The previous message given by the scholar was that this is referring to the disbelievers, right, and reminding them that these are all decorations of the world that you are tempted by, that you forget the next world because you're obsessed with this world. But then again, the beauty of the world in itself is used in the Quran to bring us to understand Allah, right? To get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by looking at the great creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they say that the developed and people who are developed and pious, their ornaments are faith and piety. They are beautified by their faith and their religiousness, their taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they become beautiful people because of that. So they are one of the ornaments of the world, because these are because of their beauty in character, in their mannerisms, in their actions and things like that. Ornaments are the means of trial in order to be determined who amongst people has been deluded and sells himself, and who, by means of continence continence, and piety uses these ornaments as a preparation for his righteous deeds. So a test on how you manage these resources that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put on earth, the beautiful things of earth, right? You see them and you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You start saying subhanallah, alhamdulillah, and you are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you say alhamdulillah, you praise him for all these things that you have in this world that beautify your world. But at the same time, the thing that really beautify people of faith is the belief in their piety, the constant, continency, the wrong word, consistency in being with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they use all these ornaments for doing righteous deeds. لِنَبْلُوَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا, so that we test you. So the world is a real test. Which of you is the best indeed? So it's about your action. Ahsanu amala, you want it to be the best. That means you try to excel. Allah wants to see those who try to excel in their actions. You'll do the best that they can do. Amalan, actions done with thoughts. And it's amal. Fa'ala, also action, but not with thoughts. When you say amalan, at the end there, amalan, right, it is what you call a nakira, right? It is nasab, state, al-tamyiz, distinction, specification. What it means is that, right, putting the nasab means to have an an at the end. It is a language used, right, by the Arabs when they put it at the end. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places the word amalan at the end to say that this amalan is just immense, right? It is something special, it's something great that you do with knowingly that you are doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you do it for the best, in the best way you can do. So it channels the meaning of direction, ahsan, beautiful, excellent, right? The best that you can do, right, in beautifying your action. So the world is beautiful. The world has got beautiful things, right, that decorates it. Allah places all the things, but the best of all is a beautiful character, beautiful mannerism, beautiful akhlaq. And Rasulullah is insan kamil, the perfect mankind, right, who shows these great, beautiful actions. Ahsan. Ayyuhum ahsanu amala. For believers, is beauty is a sign for us to get closer to Allah, to do good. Beauty for our actions to attain excellence. That's why we become muhsin. In the first, we are Muslim because we submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We acknowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our God and Nabi Muhammad is his messenger, and then we pray and we do fast. That means these are actions to show submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we have belief. Once the belief gets in, strong belief, that is become a mu'min. Right? We really have this strong belief in Allah. We'll do whatever it is that takes to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know all the prophets exist and we love all the prophets. We send salawats to all the prophets and the angels. We know the angels have got jobs. So all these things comes in. Then comes muhsin, where you are so aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you feel ashamed to do less than the best. You achieve, you try, you strive for the best. And that we saw many times being described of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. This part of verse is a warning to all humankind and to all Muslims that in the course of this trial, they should not be deceived by some dazzling glass and the abundance of their deeds, but they ought to try to be regardful of goodness of deeds. So what is important is to use all these faculties that Allah has given us, all these decorations of the world, to look at it, to realize there is a God that creates all these things, and I need to behave in the best of manner. I am a slave, he is a master. I need to obey him whatever it takes and try my very best to obey him in the best possible manner. So the beauty of flowers and the nature itself is perishable, but a good deed is fixed and remaining, is everlasting. These different bounties, these ranks and social positions, and the like of them are not perpetual either. There will come a day when there will remain but a dry and silent graveyard from these societies. So all these beautiful things that people aggrandize, they buy expensive stuff, show off, all these things, they will have to lose them one day. And that's when they will go into this grave, where it will be silent and dry. This fact is a great instructive lesson. All right, let's look at the Dajjal and the world. We know that the first few verses will help us to protect us against Dajjal. And so it is instructive to us to look so that we will not be deceived by the Dajjal. So we're going to look at that also. Hence, the believers must expect the earth to increasingly glitter as a period of Dajjal's fitna approaches its climax. More and more things that just cause us to be in a state of neglect of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are considered to be towards the end of the world. There's enough signs out there, right, that has been described by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we don't know when it's going to happen, but it's soon. We are among those people towards really at the end of the world. Although Rasulullah has mentioned that his advent in itself marks the coming of the end of the world. It's already 1,445 years, right? We just celebrated our new year since Rasulullah migrated, right? So it's long, most probably some predict maybe another 30, another 50 years, we don't know. But there's so much out there in this world with all the various, all the mass media and everything that just, we're just deluded by it. We are not able to really spend good time with what Allah has given us. The real motive underlying man's refusal to believe in Allah's spiritual message is almost always the excessive, blind attachment to the world, to this world, combined with the false pride in what they regard as their own achievements. Right, so they really believe, they work hard, they did this, they did that, and they gloat over themselves. They want to live life because they deserve everything, because they work hard to gain everything. They must live life, but they forget that they can just die tomorrow. Anytime death comes, and that is whatever they have is going to leave them, right, except the amal salih. If Dajjal can succeed in getting the dunya to replace Allah most high in the hearts of mankind, they would have failed Allah's test and trial, and he would then easily lead them to the hellfire. So it's about the Dajjal will come, the Dajjal will put the love of the world in the hearts of men and not the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because the human beings are devoid of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it becomes easy for him to seduce them and bring them to hellfire. The world in which we now live is one in which the overwhelming majority of mankind appear to have already been so seduced by the dunya, and in consequence are being embraced with the materialism, godlessness, and decadence that result from turning away from Allah. Most people don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't see a reason why God should exist, right? And they don't want to when there's no God, and they do whatever they want to do. They think themselves as God because they believe in their ideas and their way of presenting things, their way of their logic and whatever, right? And they go down because human being cannot survive without inspiration, without observing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It means returning to Allah subhanahu. To mankind, the love of worldly appetite is painted in glowing colors, women and children, and heap out mounds of gold and silver. Of course, we might not have that, but it is all of anything that seduces us, that we gloat over, that we treasure so much, right? We spend day and night working just to have this beauties of the world. And horses with fine markings. Of course, we don't have horses. This is I mean, in the olden days when people have horses, beautiful horses and everything, but we have beautiful cars, right? Big cars, expensive cars. You know, in Singapore, we have to change our cars every 10 years, whether you like it or not. But basically, we go for it. No matter how expensive the cars are, right? We see the cars are still a lot on the roads, and people are just buying and for all these things. And livestock and fertile farmland. So of course, again, for us living in the city, it's not livestock, it's not fertile farmland, but things that decorate, that show that we have made it on earth. All that is merely the enjoyment of the life of this world. The best homecoming is in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is what Allah says. These are tests for you to see which of you will do the best in your deeds. And your deeds must be good and it must be the best. That means you should know that Allah exists, and when you know Allah exists, you know that He looks on at you, right? So you will be too ashamed to do less than the best. Wa inna, and surely we, la ja'iluna, right? Lam, definitely. Just now was naj'ala, right? Naj'ala, that is present future. Now is la, lam is lam of emphasis. Ja'iluna, ja'iluna, one who places. It is a noun now. Now, right? And not one, sorry. Ja'iluna, ja'ala is a root word, right? It's a lot of people here. Ja'iluna, we, those who place, because it's a we here. So it cannot be one. And the Waw Nun tells us it is a plural. Definitely those. La is definitely those who place. All right. Ja'iluna ma alayha sa'idan juruza. Right. Wa inna la ja'iluna ma, what, alayha, on it. Allah is on her, is it. It referring to the earth again. Sa'idan juruza, barren soil. Sa'id is soil. Juruza is barren. Wa inna la ja'iluna ma alayha sa'idan juruza. And most surely, inna is, remember, is two words here. We, right, definitely want those who make will make it on us. So you can see that the translation doesn't exhibit or doesn't illustrate the strength of the word. And when you look at the word here, it is an ism here, very powerful word. Ism means all the time those who make. Of course, Allah used the plural, right, to show majesty. You don't say I, you say we. So Allah doesn't say I. Sometimes Allah says we. Some people say we also include Allah's the angels that were there doing work also. Allahu alam bisawab, but basically the we strengthens or gives it power. Right? Those who put, definitely he placed what on it barren. So we will make on it bare ground without growth or herbage, right? So of course, barren soil means without growth or herbage. Yeah? So they actually explain the word barren soil here on it. Now, this is another look at the whole world. Now, it's going to be barren. Or what is it all about? Right? For surely we, definitely we are those who's going to make whatever on it, right? Whatever is on earth, Allah is going to place whatever on earth, going to change whatever He's going to do, right? It's going to become barren soil. Wa connects the previous ayah, brings us to reality. Wa, right? What is and we surely, definitely, we will be those who would put or place whatever on it, becoming soil, barren soil. Inna and la emphasizes the situation. Inna mentioned again, right? Or inna, just now was inna, now it's inna again, right? So ja'iluna, a noun, a confirmed condition. That means whatever beauty that you have, you are enthralled by, you are tempted by, all of them will become soil, barren soil. Sa'id, dust, from Sa'ud, an elevated place. So right now you see mountains and heights of buildings, etc. One day they will all collapse to dust. Sa'id, a strong image. So it's just so sudden what Allah brings to us. Right? What is important? You are being tested here. Right? The previous verse. You're tested to see if you can do the best of actions. And remember, right? For surely, whatever you have on earth will go. Whatever it is on earth will become dust. So it will be gone in no time. Juruza, lifeless, dead. From the word jaraz, to kill off a land so no vegetation grows on it. Sa'id and Juruza shows the greatness that you got to realize that there will be nothing at all. You know, it will no plants, no trees, nothing that you used to enjoy your life with or you live life for. A clear element of toughness in the expression and in the scene it portrays. Desert-like surface with no trace of life. The word Sa'id is used for soil and whatever absolutely is on the ground. The Quranic holy term Juruz means a land without any plants. So Allah has settled the phrase liyabluwakum, so that He will test you. Which relates to the trial of people between the term Ja'alna, we have appointed, and the term Ja'ilun. Ja'alna, we made. Just now was we put, right? Ja'alna, the first previous is ja'alna, right? Alal ardi zinatan laha linabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala. And also we saw that Allah changed the word to kum. That means Allah is addressing all of us here, right? All of you, listen up, right? You are to understand that this world that is beautiful is going to be a test for you. So the first one is ja'alna, we have appointed or we have placed. And the term ja'ilun, right? Surely we will make. Now, what's the difference here? One of these two words relates to the prosperity of the earth, and the other relates to its barrenness. So it'll be a hint that people's trial is located amongst prosperity, freshness, barrenness, and sorrow. So what they are saying here is this. All right, if you look at the situation here, he's saying that the word ja'alna, past tense, right? For surely we're going to put, right, place on these beautiful things as a trial for all of you on earth, right? That shows the prosperity, the freshness, the beauty, the whatever things that you see joy in, right? And that is a test for you. But then after that, so it's a linabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala, so as to test you all, which of you is the best of creation. Wa, right? Wa inna ja'alna, and surely wa inna ja'ilun, we are those who are going to put, right, whatever on earth to become barren. So barrenness, soil, gives you the image of the unhappiness that you have in this world. No, you will have happiness and you will have unhappiness. You will have obsessions with all kinds of things, but in the deep recess of your heart, you might have certain things that makes you unhappy. Right, and it's said also in another verse of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about the world, right? Beautiful, and then suddenly it goes down, this life. Right, and it says that, one of the Noman Ali Khan actually explained that, you want this, you want this, you want this, but after you get it, then what? After you get it, then what? So you are still searching and searching and searching and trying to find the people who buy a designer bag, designer shoes, designer clothes, right? They are always searching for something new, right? All the time, right? The one that they had, is out of fashion. I got to go for something that is in fashion and buy and buy and buy. So they get obsessed with these things, right? That's the word. What is important in this cause is the deed of man and his success. It is narrated in tradition that the purpose of the phrase ahsanu amala, best in conduct, is a wisely action accompanied with piety, which should have been reserved for hereafter. Right? So it's for the next world. You do things all for the next world. Your joys are all, you'll see the great joys in the next world. And again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the previous verse, right, the second verse, that Allah says, Ajran hasana, for those people who believe and do good deeds. So it's about doing good deeds here. It's very important for us to use our intellect to understand that we are slaves of Allah, and as slaves of Allah, we have great trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We believe that by abiding according to what He has said in the Quran, our life will be good in this world and good in the next. So that's why our dua is Rabbana atina fi dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhaban nar. Right, you want good in this world and good in the next world, and we ask Allah to protect us from the hellfire. The apparent reason of disbelief of the infidels is often their entire attention is on the beauties of the world. They get lost in the world. Let's recite it again. فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِئٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ إِن لَّمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَسَفًا إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا مَا عَلَى الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَّهَا لِنَبْلُوَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا وَإِنَّا لَجَاعِلُونَ مَا عَلَيْهَا صَعِيدًا جُرُزًا. Raqim, the inscriptions, one word of raqamah. We'll see other meanings to it and understanding of this word. Raqamah, to raqam is to write and to inscribe and not to remove it. Awa is fled or to find refuge, right? To retreat to. Al-Fityah, the young man. Fatiyah is one. Fityah, plural, the young man, right? And it's very strange word here because it has a ta marbuta to show that it's a female, but actually it refers to young men. And we'll understand why the ta marbuta is placed there. Hayyi is to facilitate, to make it easy. Hayyi. Rashada, right way. Right. Rashid, right. Murshid, one who shows you the right way. Rashada, and it's of course it is ism, the tanwin here. Let's look at a little bit of it. Okay, for darabna, then we covered fa is then daraba. Daraba is actually to strike or to place, or it's always daraba. But when we look at the sentence later on, we will realize that quite difficult to use the normal meaning of daraba, which means to strike. For darabna, then we covered sinin, as sana is one. Sinin, 1 year. Hada sana, right, this year. Sinin is many years. And you do word sana when you do make your niyat for Ramadan, for fasting Ramadan. Hadi sanati, his sanat, in this year, right? So this is sinin, years, many years. Adadan, a number. Adadah, iddah. When you're iddah, you count the numbers of days. Adadah, and of course this is in its nasab state. So here we know it's ism because of the al. Here is flat, is past tense, fi'il madi. Here is al again, ism. Here is hayyi, because it's sukun here, we know it is fi'il amr. Rashadan, we know it's nasab, and it is ism. Here is past tense because the noon is at the end, right? And it is past tense, fi'il madi. And here is, of course, we know it's noun, sinin, and adadan with that tanwin, right? We've got a number. Yanun tells us it's plural. Yanun is plural. Sinin. All right. Al-Hizb, Bain. Hizb is one party. Hizbullah, party of Allah. Now it's Hizbain, the Yanun tells two. The two parties. Labithu, they stayed. Labithu, they stayed. Wow, alif at the end, past tense, plural. Fi'al, again, it's a fi'al. Past tense, fi'al madi. This is ism, the al is there. Then amadan, time period. And amadan is time period. All right, we go on to the verse, the next set of verses. Hasibta, is all. Hasaba is you. Hasibta, you thought. Past tense, the ta is you. Hasaba is to figure, to think, to guess, and all those things are in the word hasaba. Anna, that al-kahfi ashabi, that annal ashabil kahfi. Sometimes when I type, this thing just change position like that. So you just have to click that and then you get the right word. So sorry about that. Ashab al-kahfi. All right. So in anna is that. Ashaba is in its nasab because anna is nasab state, nasab huruf. And nasab huruf. And we have here an off structure because ashaba, right, doesn't have al and doesn't have al, and yet it is fatha. So it's supposed to be fathatain, but it's not fathatain because it is an off structure. And a little bit of grammar here. For those who are not familiar with grammar, can always go through our lessons on grammar. You'll learn something about grammar in the Quran, inshallah. Although I said it make it easy, some people say it's not really that easy. But anyway, you'll gain something, inshallah. Al-kahfi, kahf is the cave, and this one is a jar state because of the off structure. Whenever it's off structure, the first one doesn't have al, doesn't have tanwin, and the second one must be a jar. If it's an al, there's no kasratain, but because it's an al, it is kasrata, kasrahin. All right, ashab al-kahfi wal-raqimi, and the inscriptions. Kanu, they were min ayatina, of our signs. The min is sort of jar, ayati is jar state, na is our. Ajaba, amazing. So we see another nasab here, fathatain here, to show the amazingness, right? As mentioned, it is tamyiz, it is showing the greatness of it, right? And it's always placed at the end to show that this is the state of the condition of the human being. Ajaba. Or do you think the fellows at the cave and the inscriptions of our wonderful signs? All right. Hasibta, or you think anna ashab al-kahfi warraqimi. Right. Do you think that the companions of the cave and the raqim, the inscriptions, right? Has two meanings here, right? The word is used here. Whether you're this or that does not matter. One is more important than the other. So if this or that, right? If this, you like this, you think this is or that, has that meaning, right? This or that. This or that. That's One is more important than the other. You can think, you consider one more important than the other, that's what it means There's an or there, right? Where you think one is more important than the other. This is more important or this one is important. Here is a rather. Rather, do you assume? All right, there's another opinion here. Is rather. Rather, do you seem to think, right? So previous ayah discussed some really powerful and dramatic events, the destruction of the beautified earth. Right? If you saw it as that, first Allah talks about the beautiful earth, and then Allah talks about Him making the earth barren, right? It's just dust, and that's it. Right? This is the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, if you say right, you don't seem to understand that whatever has been described before is what is so amazing about the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For something so beautiful and so grand is going to become dust and nothing at all. There's power, there's might in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But rather, somehow, you seem to think that the people of the cave, the companions of the cave, or even the raqim, the inscriptions, are the amazing things, which actually they are not. I mean, that is the sense here, right? You are not looking at the reality of the amazing creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you are so obsessed with this Ashabul Kahfi, because this was one of the questions that they present to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? The companions of the cave. Right. Now, another dramatic one, the young man who fled to a cave. So is the next narrative that amazing to you? That this man who went to the cave are so amazing to you that you forget the great, amazing things that Allah has created and placed on earth. So hasibta, you assume past tense, right? Hasibta, you assume, somehow you seem to be in that state of thinking that this is somehow really, really amazing. Raqim here is maf'ul, right? Like marqum, right? Inscribed. That means it's really, really so amazing. It's inscribed. Marqum, something that is inscribed. The names of this young men were inscribed and preserved for a long time. Hasibta. So this is another opinion of Raqim. We'll go to another opinion of Raqim. So there's a few opinions. It is just, I present all these situations so that we are aware that there are differences of opinions, right? Because of certain things has been said. And so we just leave our mind as a person without much deep knowledge as our scholars out there, right? We do understand that there are differences of opinion concerning the meanings of the Quran here. Hasibta anna ashab al-kahfi wal-raqimi kanu, right? Kanu, you look at the word kanu. Or do you think that the people, the companions of the cave and the raqim, they were, verb kanu is placed later, to emphasize or brings focus to the ism, right? To make them, they were. Who? What is this? They were the ones. They were the ones, right? So it reminds us, it brings back our attention to the people of the cave and the raqib. Ashabul kahfi wa raqib, and gives it ikhtisas, also ta'jub. Right. So the word kanu, okay, this is usage of language, right? We go into the rhetoric of the language itself. This is place. So you can see that as layperson, as non-Arab speakers and people who are not proficient in the use of the Arabic language, right? We do not see the greatness of the structure of the sentence. We are not able to, unless we are told. Now we are told and we learn, right? But when the Arabs were concerned, they are steep, they are very highly developed in their language usage, and they have very great grammar. They use it in beautiful manner. So when listen to these verses that come down, they realize the impact that the words have, right, on the message given. So it is. أم حسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا, right? The word kanu is put there to give this exclusiveness, right, to the companions of the cave and the raqim, which you are also obsessed with, that you think is just so amazing. This is your thinking, but in actual fact, it is not true. You are not thinking beyond that. That's what it means, right? The cave companions were young men who were true followers of Isa alayhi salam. Now, some of the scholars actually mention that might not be the Christians, or as the Christians have this story, because they come to the conclusion from the fact that the question was asked on a rabbi. So the rabbi should not know of these companions of the cave, which might not be so true, because they have interactions. They are rabbis and the Christians. They have interactions, and they've heard the stories abound about the people of the cave, right? And so the Jews might not, the Bani Israel do not have this story in their scriptures, because according to narrations, this is about the Christians, right, who are persecuted. So because they don't have these stories in the scriptures, so chances of them asking this question is not there. So if they did ask this question, right, they inquire about the people of the cave, then they must be referring to some other people of the cave who were Jews. But that is not necessarily so, as mentioned, right? They have knowledge of this, and they've heard of the people of the cave, right? And they want to know more about it because they don't have knowledge of it. They believe in the pure Islamic concept of Tawheed as taught by Isa alayhi salam. Since such sincere believers in Isa were severely persecuted by pagan Romans and later on by Pauline Christians. Now, Pauline Christians seems to be those who follow St. Paul, right? Somehow, I'm not very sure about this. This is what I gather from what I've read, that they believe in the divinity of Isa alayhi salam. That Isa is not Isa is not just a prophet, but he is much more than the prophet, being the son of God and being God, Allahu Alam, whatever they say. But early Christians believe, as Nabi Isa is taught, in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also as mentioned in the Quran, with regards to the story of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, Nabi Isa has always attested to the fact that he is a prophet and he has a God to whom he is a slave. So these young men valued their faith so much that to avoid being forced back into paganism or polytheism, they took refuge in a cave. So we're going to have a little bit of a look at who these companions of the cave were. Later on, we'll talk more about them. Kanu. So the word kanu was used. Min ayatina ajaba. So the word kanu is emphasizing that you all seems to think that the people of the cave and the Raqim is of the amazing signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somehow you forgot to see how the whole earth that is placed, decorations are placed on it, is so amazing. And the fact that one day is going to go is another amazing thing. That means that whatever beauty on the earth doesn't have any value. What is of great value is your amal saleh. Ahsanu amala, the best of deeds is the one that is of value, because everything on earth that you live for, right, that you work for, is going to be barren soul. Not a normal sentence. A normal Arabic sentence structure. Kanu ajaban min ayatina. So the ajaban is brought forward, is brought at the end to emphasize, right, the how you're amazed by these two things. Now, they were from our signs amazing, strange, unique, shocking. Focus on signs, then ajaban. So these are signs of Allah, right? You take this as signs of Allah, but there are other great signs of Allah. Somehow you chose these two signs as something that is amazing. So ajaban, amazingness, they are an extremely amazing sign of Allah. As mentioned, it is put right in front and right at the end to emphasize the amazingness of the sign of Allah that you have chosen, right, to be really amazing. The people of the cave and the Raqim. Extremely unusually strange ajaban. Ajaban, hyperbolized maximum form. Hyperbolized means it is exaggerated. It is of course, it is nakira, which means it is unknown. Unknown doesn't mean not known, but unknown means it's amazing, it's non-specific. So when it's non-specific, it is limitless, right? And having it as a nasab also makes it more and more amazing. Here are the youths who have faith in Allah Most High and who responded to the awesome trials alike to Dajjal and of Gog and Magog in the last age. They withdrew from the godless world that was waging war on them and on their religious way of life. They survived by holding fast to the divine scriptures, Raqim. So this is one opinion of the word Raqim. Just now we had Raqim as the names, as inscriptions of the names of the people of the cave. Here we have Raqim as the divine scriptures, somehow, right? The books that they keep from, that they hold on to from Nabi Isa alayhi salam. Their case was not something amazing compared to Allah's power and ability. For the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternation of night and day, and the subjugation of the sun, moon, and heavenly bodies, and other mighty signs indicate the great power of Allah and show that He is able to do whatever He wills. Right? They forget, they think that these are great things, but actually greater is the might and power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you look all around the world, the skies and the earth and everything. He is not incapable of doing more amazing things than the story of the people of the cave. Alfi reported that Ibn Abbas said, hasibta anna ashab kahfi warraqimi kanu min ayatina ajaba. Right? What I have given to you of knowledge, the sunnah and the book is far better than the story of the people of Kahfi and Raqim. So this is another look at your thinking that they are so great, people of Kahf and the Raqim, but actually the knowledge that Allah has blessed us with is just so amazing. Right? The sunnah. So Ibn Abbas is one of the greatest authority on the interpretation of the Quranic verses. He is a cousin of Rasulullah SAW from his uncle Abbas. And Rasulullah has attested to his great wisdom in understanding the verses of the Quran. All right, so here he's saying that it is comparing the knowledge, the Sunnah, and the Quran. These are much, much more amazing than whatever they have of the people of the book and the Raqim. Muhammad bin Ishaq said, it means I have not shown my creatures a proof of more amazing than the story of the people of Kahfi and Ar-Raqim. So this is another opinion, right? Right? This is definitely, by the story here, they will learn how amazing are the people of the cave and the Raqim. Al-Kahfi refers to a cave in a mountain, which is where the young men sought refuge. With regard to the word Ar-Raqim, Al-Awfi reported from Ibn Abbas that it is a valley near Ayla. Al-Dahaq said, as for Al-Kahfa is a cave in the valley, and Ar-Raqim is the name of the valley. So you can see the differences of opinion here on the Raqim. Right? Raqim, what is inscribed in the valley, could be a beautiful valley, Wallahu alam, amazing valley with all kinds of structures. Wallahu alam, why they chose Raqim. Mujahid said Ar-Raqim refers to their buildings, the beautiful buildings, big, huge buildings that they made. Wallahu alam. Abdul Razak recorded that Ibn Abbas said about Ar-Raqim, Ka'ab used to say that it was the town. Right? So Abbas said that Ka'ab says that it was the town. That means if it's after the time, during the Byzantine Empire, right? We do know that from history, those who have learned history of the Byzantine Empire, they built beautiful structures. They are actually very good, and they made aqueduct, all kinds of things from their abilities of structures and things like that. So Ibn Jurayj reported that Ibn Abbas' Ar-Raqim is a mountain in which the cave was. Sa'id ibn Jubair said, Ar-Raqim is a tablet of stone on which they wrote the story of the people of the cave. Then they place it at the entrance of the cave. So Allahu alam, so these are all opinions, but whatever it is, they will seem to be amazed by this Ar-Raqim thing and the people of the cave. Id awal fityatu, id is when. Id not only means when, right? We have been mentioning this again, the dha there, right? Actually recall when, from the word dhikr, id. Recall when Awa retreated the youth. Of course, Awa we see as past tense, but as Arabic structure, the past tense must be in the singular form, and the fitya is a plural. al-fityatu, the youths. And the youths are the one who retreated or who went for refuge or who escaped, who find place of refuge. Ila al-kahfi, to the cave. Ila is sort of jar, kahfi is in its jar state. Faqalu, then they say, Rabbana, our Rabb, atina, give us. Ati is of course fi'l amr, it is a request. Rabbana atina min ladunka, from yourself. That means what you have, that means there's amazing things we need from you. Right? You have this, what did you have? And he said, min ladunka, from your very own presence, is what it means. Right? Rahmah, we want mercy. Rahmah, right? We want mercy from yourself, rahmah, and rahmah, of course, nasab, because it's the thing that we want, and nasab is object. Our object or our desire is rahmah. إذ أوى الفتية إلى الكهف فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا, and hasten again is a request. Hasten, or make it good for us and make it easy for us. Lana, for us. Min amrina, of our affairs. Rashada, a right way. Min amrina rashada. Rashada is placed at the end again. It's nasab. So use of nasab is quite, we see quite occurring a few times to show the greatness of what they want. When the young men fled for refuge to the cave, they said, Rabb, give us mercy from your presence and hasten for us the right way in dealing in our affairs. Hayyi lana min amrina rashada. إذ أوى الفتية إلى الكهف, when the youths retreat or find refuge in the cave, then they say, Rabbana, our Rabb, atina, give min ladunka, from yourself, rahmah, mercy. We need mercy. Definitely we need mercy from. As we are aware, these are young people running away from persecution. When we run away from persecution, we definitely need mercies from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If, when, come, may come from dhukur, as I mentioned, remember when, and recall when these people we seek refuge, a place you to go to rest. I've mentioned that already. Awa is a masculine word, fitya to young men, a female word, right? So this is strange in the Arabic structure because here is male, must be male here, but here male. But again, it's also male also, but somehow it has a female form. This shows that there were a few young men fleeing. So in the words itself, right, again, it is a structure of the Arabic language, right? There is an indication in the words, right? So that there's a few young men. So in translation, we can't see this. That is why we learn tafsir. And this is tafsir. Tafsir explaining the words and the use of the words and how the use of the words in itself amazes the Arabs. That is why the Quran is a mu'jizat, in that sense that the structure, the stories just said, the Arabs become incapacitated. I mentioned this last week, right? They are lost for words. It's just so amazing. But now the Quran is still, all right, the Quran is still a miracle for the non-Arabs. Why? Because there are many instances when you read the Quran, the translation of the Quran, right? People have experienced this. Many people experience this. Some convert just by the translation. Some are in a state of disturbance. They read the Quran and Allah shows them the way in the Quran where they are troubled by it. Now Allah, then they come. Right? Allah says they are young men. They're seeking refuge in the cave. And then they call out and they say this, Rabbana atina min ladunka rahmah. Rabbana atina min ladunka rahmah. Normally at the beginning of a sentence, it would be a subject, marfu. That means Rabbuna, not Rabbana. So why is it Rabbana? So, but it's Rabbana an object mansub, thus it is a dua. So this Rabbana taqabbal dua. We say Rabbana. We say Rabbuna. We say Rabbana because we are making a dua. Rabbana. Later on, we'll see the use of the word Rabbuna and we will understand what this scholar is telling us about the difference between Rabbana and Rabbuna. So when we ask Allah, we say Rabbana. We use Rabbuna suggests a statement. Rabbana suggests a dua. So they're making a dua here. Atina min ladunka, give us especially and specifically from you. That's the meaning of it. Min ladunka, especially and specifically, we want it from you. We don't want it from anybody else. We only want it from you. That's what it is. And we know it when we know that it comes from you, it's gonna be this amazing mercy, and we desire this mercy. Not only do we desire this mercy, but we really, really need this mercy from you, Ya Allah. Have mercy on us. Ladunka implies a special favor on your behalf. Rahmatan, immense, mansub of atina. Give us rahmatan. Rahmatan, as mentioned, it is not al-rahmah, it is not specific, it is non-specific. That means immense. Right? We need this great mercy from you. We just cannot live without your mercy. We are in a difficult state, Ya Allah. Bless us with mercy. So this dua is not only from, it's a teaching from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on what we should ourselves do when what dua we can make when we are in a state of difficult situation. And our children, our family, our life, our religion, our whatever troubles us in life, right? We need to seek the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? You say, Rabbana atina, give us min ladunka, from yourself, rahmah. We need that rahmah. We can't live without your rahmah. Wahayyi, and hasten for us. We need it right now, basically. From lana, for us, lana, min amrina, of our affairs. You know our affairs. You are our creator. We need you to show us the best way to approach his affairs. We have no choice. We are lost here. We don't know what to do, right? Show us the best way to move in this affair of ours. Hayyi lana, or hayya, hayyi lana, actually here, to provide the means for a project for a task. That means we have a problem here. We have a situation here. Give us the means, the best means ever, so that we can move on in the right way. Here is a situation, it shows certain control over your situation. So you want Allah to give you a means, I mean, to find that means you ask for a means. That means you ask Allah to bless you with the knowledge, with the resources, right, to move on in the right way, right, because of this affair that I'm having. Affair means a condition, not affair. This task at hand, right? This matter at hand I'm involved with, in that sense. Rashadan, to be good, straightness, guidance, upright. That's what we want. We want it rashadan, and then again it is fathatain there. It is nakira. Okay, hopefully you understand when I say nakira. Nakira means non-specific. Fathatain means to emphasize the non-specificness of the situation. We want a definite, whatever we need is a right path. Whatever we need is a good, straight guidance and upright way of doing things. That's all we want. And we want you to make it easy for us by facilitating it for us, giving us the means, right, to move through here. And that is why in our Fatiha, we say, Iyaka na'budu, you, only you, Ya Allah. Right, ka, we are talking to Allah with the word ka. Na'budu, we enslave ourselves. We are a slave of yours. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka, and only you, Ya Allah, nasta'in. Right, we seek assistance. So we always talk about assistance. We know we are a slave of Allah, and because we are a slave of Allah, right, we are observing what He asks us to do as a slave. But we do realize that in the process of trying to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are times where it's going to be difficult for us. That is why we need His assistance. So we keep on praying to Allah, asking Allah, make it easy for me, Ya Allah, make it easy for me, Ya Allah, help me, Ya Allah. You know, you are moving, so you are asking for assistance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is what it is. Mention of amrina to specify the rashadan. So we have an affair, we have a state here, we have a condition that we don't seem to know how to manage it well, right? So we need you, Ya Allah, to give us the path, to show us what is the way forward, what is the way forward for us. Amrina not necessarily to be there, so they are asking Allah to provide. So it doesn't have to be there, right? Wahayyi lana rashada, right? Then you can just say wahayyi lana rashada. That means and facilitate for us this path, this straight path. But Amrina is mentioned to stress. Actually, when we make du'as, of course, Allah knows our state. But when we mention it, right, we identify the reality of our concern in this case, right? We have this situation where we don't know how to move on with, and we need your guidance definitely so that we'll be straight and upright and guided. So they are asking Allah to provide them with means, hayyi, for staying upon guidance in their affairs, a world full of corruption and oppression. So this is what they were. Their dua indicates their maturity and wisdom. They know what exactly is the reality of life. Life cannot move. They cannot move on with their life without the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they cannot move on with their life without Allah showing them the direction, the way to seek His pleasure. While giving up everything and taking refuge in the cave for zealously protecting their faith and for their love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they also knew that they need Allah's mercy and guidance every step of the way, and that it is their only resort. This is all. Allah is the only. They asked their Rabb to provide a way for them that they could deliver from that straitened circumstance, and that it would lead them to goodness and happiness, so that they could perform their duties. So that's what it is, right? Find us. If you are in a difficulty, give us the right way of doing to reach goodness and happiness, so that we can do what we have supposed to do. As was reported in the hadith, وَمَا قَضَيْتَ لَنَا مِنْ قَضَاءٍ فَجْعَلْ عَاقِبَتَهُ رَشَدًا. Whatever you have decreed for us, make its consequence good. We need whatever you decreed for us of the decree, and make it the consequences good for us, or proper for us, straight for us. The word Rashada is being used here. All right, we have to stop here. Allahumma arhamna bil Quran waj'alhu lana imaman wa nuran wa hudan wa rahmah. Allahumma dhakkirna minhu ma nasina wa 'allimna minhu ma jahilna warzuqna tilawatahu آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين. اللهم استودعك ما علمتني فردده إلي وقت حاجتي إليه فلا تنسينيه يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا، ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا، ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل القتر أنسا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر innal insan.
Ini adalah isu-isu pengurusan pusaka yang mungkin ada di kalangan peserta-peserta semua.
Wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr.
Saya mengambil petikan isu-isu.
Jazakumullah. Thank you, Sister Maria.
We are still reading.
You are very fast.
Sorry,
I'm very slow. I do slowly. And today I'm not feeling well. Very slowly we can execute, follow you.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك
وأتوب إليك.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحانك اللهم
أشهد أن لا
وبحمدك
إله إلا
نشهد
أنت
أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك